Jeff, Jeff, Jeff. Jeff, 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 Jeff. Jeff, Jeff. Jeff. Jeff.
Jeff Stein is our national and presidential expert when it comes to politics. Of course, he's a noted author. You can find his books over at Next Chapter Bookstore here in the Twin Cities. Of course, your favorite book retailer anywhere you are in Chicago. They make fantastic. They make fantastic in regards to St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day.
I'm getting an echo here. That's kind of interesting. That's well, we'll get to that. The Iowa Business Report, the Iowa Politics Report comes to us from KXEL in Cedar Falls, Waterloo, where hopefully Jeff is. Jeff, are you there?
Are you there?
Here's all I can tell you. One Matt is plenty, but hearing two Matts, that's not what stereo was invented for. That's all I can tell you. But for the folks who are not able to watch this, and oh boy, are you missing out. Here's a couple of old guys just kind of crankily talking into microphones. You have listed your descriptor on the video link as what?
The new Viking starring Queen P. I am going to be the starter. It's better than Darnold. Well, it's better than anything we put out there after that. So, and by the way, we think the echo effect might be on your end there. Just FYI. I don't know. You know me. I don't know technology at all.
Okay, there's two things I wanted to mention. Apparently, Justin Fields is free, if that's helpful to the Chicago audience.
No.
Fault? You sound like the engineers at my radio station. Nothing is their fault. It's always my fault.
Well, I don't blame. I don't. It's really, I mean, we're radio people. Most of the time we're just it's not good for us. So Jeff, if I may, I want to actually touch on something with last night in the Georgia Republican primary. So yesterday, 3 states, I mean, I'm not going to mention the Hawaiian caucus. That doesn't get anything. There was the Mississippi primary, pretty much an outstanding win for Trump. You know, he in his deep red states, he does very well. I think like 5% was what the max that he had there. When you look at Washington, I mean, that's a Democratic state that's going to go blue anyway. So, you know, the fact that he didn't lose that well, he didn't hold, I think it was like 20% of the vote did not go for him there. I don't think that matters that much. Georgia is a state he has to have. Nikki Haley has not been in this race. Nikki Haley got 13% of the vote. And when you look at where Nikki Haley resonated, Gwinnett County, Forsyth County, Hall County, up on the northeast side, all suburban counties, we are seeing that the suburban vote, which he desperately needs to get back, doesn't seem to be embracing him. And you and I both know this. If 5% of the Republican base is not voting for him, whether they vote for Biden or sit it out, it's going to be garbage.
Let's go with an even better example and not percentages, okay? How much did Biden win Georgia by? It was like 14,000 votes?
Yeah.
15,000 votes? How many votes did Nikki Haley get? I think 77,000. It was the bottom line is, and those numbers may be wrong because I didn't commit them to memory. The bottom line is that more people voted for her than the margin in 2020. So that tells you an awful lot. Now, the Trump folks are saying, well, there was early voting and she got out of the race just a week ago, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, okay, fine. Every time they point to the uncommitted vote that Joe Biden may score, and again, against him, it pales in comparison to the we don't want Trump vote. That is something that, look, when Trump says the way to get around that is we've got to swamp them, his phrase, we got to swamp them. We just got to have more people come out to overcome what they may do. That's not a strategy for getting voters, is it? To say, well, we need more than we had in the past. How are you going to do it? and there's no overture that's been made.
One of the things that I think that it's interesting is you brought up the Democratic vote, the uncommitted vote. The problem that Trump has there is that that's not people that just don't like Trump that are looking for a different option like they are with Nikki Haley. That's people that are protesting, for the most part, a specific policy point in regards to Biden's support of Israel during the Gaza conflict. When it comes down to it, on the other side there, you've had Donald Trump who has said, I'm willing to expel every Muslim out of the country. And as well, you have Republicans who have said, line up every Palestinian and put a bullet in their head. I could care less. I think when it comes to the general election, you would hope that those people would realize, well, I made my protest, but the reality is I'd be suicidal to go along with Donald Trump because he's clearly not going to be helping me out and benefiting me here. So your thoughts that because I think, as you said, I think the attrition rate for Republican voters on that people that are not happy with either Trump or Biden is a lot more likely to disappear for Trump than it is for Biden.
People who vote for Haley, for whatever reason, are not going to come around to Trump as easily as uncommitted voters will for Biden. That's the short way of saying everything that you just mentioned, okay? And you can do that in a very basic manner. In other words, Biden may be inviting a protest vote, and that's the uncommitted. But again, they're going to come home because of all the other issues. It's an inter-party fight that's different on the Democrat side than the Republican side, because on the Republican side, you've got people who say, if she's not the candidate, then I'm not going to vote Republican. That's very different from people in Michigan, for example, or Minnesota who say, I want to send a message. The message was within the family during a primary. Mm-hmm. Very different from a general election. And again, this idea of, well, we just got to get more people to vote. That's not a concrete strategy. And the other thing that I'm afraid that this is going to fall into.
Yeah.
Biden and Trump don't like each other, right?
Yes.
Pretty fair?
Yeah.
We can agree on that much,
yes.
Right? You and I actually agree on more things than we don't, but we certainly agree Biden and Trump don't like each other. And I would say the hatred is even stronger on the Biden side in terms of personal animus. And that's not a bad thing. I mean,
the Charlottesville thing that he talks about with Charlottesville, that's why he decided to run again in 2020. He's like, no, there weren't good people on both sides there. Yeah, he definitely was really mad about that.
And in 24, he says, I'm the only guy who can beat Trump. Okay, that's fair. Well, here's the thing. 273 days from Election Day. They've both locked it up. We are going to have nothing but sniping from each of them against the other. And that's what makes me worry about the whole thing. If you've got two angry guys just telling the world how bad the other one is, at a time when Americans are looking for, what are you going to do for us? What are you going to do to fix things? What are you going to do to make our lives better? If this becomes just a shouting match between two angry old men, it's going to turn off many people.
But the State of the Union,
you got to do some of that.
Well,
you got to do some of that, but you got to also state what it is you're going to do in the next 4 years.
And the problem is the media ignores the fact that Joe Biden out there in the State of the Union basically put forward a lot of his policies that he's going to put out there, and he does that. But no one talks about that because look at the howler monkey that's Marjorie Taylor Greene out there screaming and trying to get the attention. That's what gets the attention.
But what about the campaign appearances then? He's in Wisconsin.
Well, but
is he focused more on what he will do or how bad Trump is?
Well, he's doing, I think, a very good job of both, and especially leaning back hard on that infrastructure bill, where he's going back because he can say in any state, this airport, that bridge, this road, we're taking care of it, and that's a selling point for him. And then he's also, let's go back to the Georgia thing. The reason why in Pennsylvania and Ohio and Michigan, the reason why Trump is having troubles in these toss-up states is the suburban women who do not trust Trump or the Republicans when it comes to reproductive rights. And you've got headlines out there where a frozen embryo is a human being and Trump's going to put in an abortion ban. This is why. I mean, this is why in Kansas, when they put that initiative out there, it got trounced in Kansas because suburban women do not want to go along with this. This is a much bigger problem for that. And so I don't blame Biden for, oh, and by the way, did you see what he wants to take away from you now? I think it's much more strategic. I mean, Trump is out going, he's a dunderhead. But Biden's going in there saying, hey, by the way, we rebuilt this airport. Oh, and by the way, Trump wants to take away your rights. Do you want to go along with that? And I think that doesn't get presented this way by the national media, but that's kind of how things are going right now.
And I just have to respectfully disagree. I think that Biden can't help himself, and he falls into Trump is in his head. And that's not a criticism. It's just a fact. And, you know, I think he can talk more. Well, no, let me finish this. I think he can talk more about policy as opposed to some of the hyperbole that then makes it get lost. I understand that you need to tear down the other side, and he's doing it at a variety of levels. Okay, that's all fine. I'm just saying that's not going to wear for 8 months. And I really think that if the public, and I don't care how it's perceived, right? I mean, I don't care. You're saying that the national media is not giving Biden a fair shake in terms of balanced coverage on it. Look, here's what it comes down to. If he focuses more on his predecessor and the personal things as opposed to, here's how the next 4 years will be if I'm here. Here's how the next 4 years will be if somebody else is here. I just think that that's a turnoff. And it's going to be a close election no matter how you look at it, I think. And so, you know, I don't think that Trump making fun of Biden and characteristics on stage is very appealing either.
But to make that comparison, you have to ignore Trump. Trump has basically an entire season of Scooby-Doo running around as far as ghosts in his head. He has his enemies list. He has been very vocal about them, lock on up, that sort of thing. And he is not putting forward any policies. If anyone's living deeper within anyone's noggin, it's Biden living within Trump's skull and Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis because he has his enemy list. And to imply that Biden is somehow hampered by this by ignoring as well, Trump is far more hampered by this. I don't think Biden is nearly as living, Trump's living in his head as much as you're saying he is. I think Biden's going out with a very, kind of like he did in 2020, a very meticulous scalpel-like approach to the election, which paid off for him. I think he's doing the same thing. That infrastructure bill is helping him a lot. That being said, I just, if you want to do that, fine. But then let's make sure we're careful here because Trump is the guy that basically has a haunted house full of ghosts running around his head. And he's constantly talking about getting revenge on them. That is not a sign. I mean, to say, oh, Biden's got this problem and ignore that, I think it's a little dishonest, to be honest.
Biden doesn't carry this off in the same way. It doesn't fit his brand to do this. Biden should have other people be the bad cop, if you will. I just don't think it does Biden a service. I don't think it helps him get to where he wants to be by coming across as if it is a personal vendetta. Let Trump be that guy, is what I'm saying. I mean, if the Biden team called me for advice, and God knows they would be in a world of hurt if they ever did, I would say be the statesman. Let that play out. I don't frankly think it's helpful when, I don't think it's helpful for Trump to say, I'll debate him anytime, anywhere, like, okay, I'll meet you, behind the jungle gym on the middle school playground and beat you up. But I don't think it's helpful for Biden to say, well, I'll do it if it depends on his behavior. Mm-hmm. I think he can distance himself and still get the points across, is what I'm saying. Well,
and I'll say this. The Democrats did the high road in 2016. You saw what that got them. Biden was much more punchy in 2020, and it got him the win. He's going back to that. And I'll say this. Republican voters, I talked about pork prices. Republican voters still think Trump was great for them. Pork producers do. The pork prices were abysmal under Trump. It'd been much better for Biden. He's got his loyal base. They're never going to change. The reality is, going back to the Georgia thing, Trump still has not won back those suburban voters, and I don't think he will, which I think kind of gives him problems. We got to take a break here. We'll come back. I'll let you follow up on that. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Want the world in my hands.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. Jeff Stein joining us with his usual weekly visit. Hey, we figured out the audio of this thing. Jeff, there he is there. So, Jeff, you only have to answer to one of me this time. Oh, there it goes again. All right, I'll tell you what, we'll do that. Jeff, I wanted to give you a chance to follow up and answer back on that point about
head.
What's that?
If you want to talk about somebody in somebody's head, I'm hearing two of you.
Well, that's yeah. A dream scenario, frankly, but
well, with the video, absolutely.
Hello. So no, I mean, but I think that there are a lot of Democrats today that do not want the high road anymore, and this idea that and I find it, and this is not a shot against you, but I do find it somewhat disingenuous of an argument that for 20 years now we've had the Republicans getting more and more into the gutter, more and more into the sewer. And then all of a sudden Biden does it, and he does it better and does it with more finesse. And all of a sudden it's like, why is he doing this? Why aren't we going back to the Lincoln-Douglas debates? And I think it's because the reality is the Republican Party unleashed Trump on us. And so you need to have someone. How many legitimate Republican candidates have been left on the wayside because they did not go after Trump the way they did? Nikki Haley finally did, but it was too late for her to save her bid. Biden does a better job of it than pretty much everyone else has.
I see. Here's the difference. You're saying that he did it well in 2020, and I agree with that. I don't think he's doing it well now, and I don't think he's doing it the same way as he did in 2020. And now put a different gloss on it. He's the incumbent president. He has a record that he can run on. And he's running against someone who's facing multiple felonies in 4 different jurisdictions. Okay, so what I'm saying is not ignoring. I'm saying I don't think he's carrying it off as well as he did before. And I think that at this point, you could be more effective with good cop, bad cop. In the old days, both parties, the presidential candidates were over on one cloud, if you will, and it was the vice presidential running mate that was the hatchet man, and they were all men at the time, and that's how it was done. I really think that you could be much more strategic by having the vice president take very pointed criticisms at the opponent and let the president play the role that he has played for the first 3 years of his term. That's all I'm saying. I just don't think he's doing it as well as he did in the past, and that I think is going to hurt him. That's it.
I'll put this out. January 6th, and Trump has already said, I want to be a dictator. And, if you're Joe Biden and you're just so, I do get the real honest thing about Biden, that he just loves this country. And when he saw Charlottesville, he said, okay, enough's enough. And then since then, here is a guy that tried to overthrow a legitimate election, and he basically has said, I'm going to be a dictator on day one. And, it's kind of one of those things. And Jon Stewart, by the way, on Monday night on The Daily Show, did a very good job of breaking this down. You can't have it both ways. The reality is, I think that you might be right in the sense that he sounds more bitter, but it's not like Trump hasn't given him reason to not be more bitter.
Well, but it comes down to what's the most effective way to get 270 electoral votes. And I think it is fair to say that you're going to need, whichever candidate wins, you're going to need a fair amount of independents. And I think in order to get the independents, not only to your side, but to show up on November 5th, I think it needs to be much more policy laden. I mean, red meat stuff to a certain crowd, sure. You get to the DNC and the acceptance speech, that better be fire and brimstone for the ages. But I'm just not sure it's going to get the crossovers, because again, we're now in a general election competition. That's all I'm saying. You got to get the independents, and more they're turned off. So talk policy. Biden's America versus Trump's America in the year 2025. I think that is the better tact for Biden based on his past brand. Nobody was surprised that Trump made personal attacks in 2016, 2020, and 2024, because that was his brand. He had a TV show on it of being a jerk. That's not the Biden brand. And that's the thing that I'm talking about here.
Well,
I'm not saying there shouldn't be rebuttal. I'm just saying I'm not sure that's the spokesperson.
And I don't think you need to do, to a point, I don't think you need to do that much, because once again, we've had 2 years of Roe v. Wade absolutely annihilating Republican chances. And just judging by these numbers, and you look at the individual counties and how they're voting, suburban women are not embracing Trump like they've used to in the past. And so I think that this is a problem for them. I did briefly, we only have a few minutes here, I did want to get to the RNC. Now that the MAGA takeover, that is there, they're laying off people left and right. They're getting rid of their diversity outreach. They're getting rid of this. It really does seem like this is all just going to be money right to Trump. That is going to hurt other Republicans, because the RNC generally is not there just for one guy.
Well, but that's why, first of all, you're right. Second of all, that's why you've got the Senate committees and the House committees and the state parties that are going out and being much more strategic. They're not, I would say state parties and Senate and House candidates are not going to rely on the RNC for squat.
Well, they can't right now, yeah.
Okay, so first of all, because of McDaniel's incompetence, they couldn't, because there was no money, and now because of the way it's going to be turned, they're in it for themselves, and they're going to do better without it. Because what self-respecting donor is going to trust the RNC based upon the past 4 years and based upon what they predict in the next 8 months? It's going to be a tough sell. Well, your pocketbook, I bet, is closed, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I give to local politicians, but that's about it. No, but it does interest because,
that's the main point, right there.
Exactly. I mean, because these issue groups, what's the groups, the dark money groups. People have been moving away from them. They move away from the RNC. The only option is a direct appeal by the politicians themselves.
Yes, and it's much more effective. You can get much more done, and you can trust it more because you darn near look the person in the eye. I think it's a great strategy. Frankly, I think that's a great strategy for nonprofit organizations. I don't like these big ones. I take care of people I know.
Well, it is
like a radio station like AM 950 in the Twin Cities, as an example.
God bless you, American. Jeff Stein, once again, your St. Patrick's Day gift giving is not complete without one of his books. Find them. I'll post this all later online. Thanks, Jeff. Chicago, goodbye. Minneapolis, St. Paul, Hour 2 up next.